Hey, and welcome to Atkinstein in the Kitchen. My name is Kent Alton, and this is going to be one of those epic films. So come along with me as we cook it up pulled pork, low carb style. So I have a picnic roast or a Boston butt pork roast here, and there are some really good people who can spend a lot of time by their smoker and want to baby the smoker and infuse a lot of flavor into it this way. I'm not one of those cooks. I like to make it simple. I like to set it and forget it to quote Ron Popeil. So in order to infuse that amount of smoked flavor into my food, I need to do things like brining it and also cooking it a long time inside my oven. So I'm butterflying my pork roast to increase the surface area on it. You can see that there's a bone right there, and I'm basically slicing just on the other side of that bone. So at this point I'm done with the pork roast for now, so I'm going to set it aside. I have a half a gallon or 2 quarts of water that are getting warm on the stove. To this I'm going to add a half a cup of salt, and this is my standard brine recipe. And I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of my dry barbecued rib rub seasoning. Alright, we're going to mix these through each other just until the salt dissolves. Alright, I'm going to turn off my heat. My salt's pretty well dissolved. Alright, to this I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of liquid smoke. Now you might be wondering what liquid smoke is. Essentially what they do is take actual smokers and fill them with choice wood and start the smoking process, and then take the residue that comes off and bottle that with distilled water. America's Test Kitchen really likes it, so I do too. And I can already smell the smoked flavor. Alright, so now our brine is done, but it's really hot at the moment. So I'm going to add some ice to cool it down. The ice will stay suspended in it even while it cools down. Alright, now you want to find yourself a cooler that's about this big for an 8-pound roast. If you have a smaller roast, you could use a smaller cooler. So we're going to put the roast in the cooler, and we're going to take the chilled brine mixture and pour it over the roast. You want to make sure that the brine completely covers the pork roast. Put your lid on. And now we're going to refrigerate this for about 4 hours for an 8-pound roast. If smaller roast, you might not need to brine it quite as long. We'll catch back up at that point, and I'll see you then. Alright, welcome back. The pork roast has been brining for the last 4 hours. I took it out of the cooler, and now I need to pat it dry. Remove all the excess moisture off the top of the pork roast, off the fat cap. I have the paper towels underneath it to catch the bottom, and then you want to make sure that you're also drying the butterfly inside. Alright, now that I have it ready, I'm taking about 1/4 cup of my dry rub and seasoning the inside of the pork roast. I'm going to close it up, season the top of it. Alright, so you can see that I've coated the top pretty liberally with it. At this point, I'm going to transfer it to my tinfoil lined paper. I'm going to wrap it as best as possible. If your roast is as large as mine is, you might not be able to wrap the entire thing with one piece. I'm going to wash my hands. Alright, I'm back. Now I'm going to wrap it the opposite way with my second sheet of tinfoil. Try to seal in the sides so that as much of the moisture and the steam coming off this roast stays in there. Alright, I've preheated my oven at 275 degrees. It can stay in that oven for up to 12 hours. For sure, about 6 to 8 hours to ensure doneness. What you're looking for is to get an internal temp on the pork roast of at least 205 degrees. At that point, it'll just flake apart. We'll catch back up at that point. I'll see you then. Alright, so it's been about 6 hours. Pull the pulled pork out. We're going to temp it. (180 degrees), so it's just about done. Now, one of the things you like on your pulled pork is to get a bark on the outside. So the outside is to be crusty, but the inside is supposed to be nice and flaky. So we're going to pull off the outer layer and expose the pulled pork. You can see that it doesn't have much of a bark at this point. We're going to put it back in and cook it for another roughly 2 hours with the skin exposed. It'll get that bark on it. Now you might be wondering, how does this compare to the pulled pork that you might have from a barbecue place? Well, I made this exact recipe for my daughter's graduation party, and it was compared very favorably to a notable or legendary barbecue place in Ames called Hickory Park. So can this be just as good as the stuff that you make within your smoker? Perhaps just as good. So I'm going to put this back in. Catch back up in 2 hours. I'll see you then. Alright, we're back. 2 hours have elapsed. In that final half hour, I turned my stove up to 400 degrees to really develop that bark on the end. So we're going to pull it out now. You can see that it's developed that bark. Nice crunchy exterior. Alright, so we're going to pull this out if we can without having it fall apart on us. Alright, we're going to pull this out. And to make it pulled pork, all you do is use your fork and shred it that way. Now you might want to serve this with a good low-carb barbecue sauce like the one that I posted to YouTube. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope this reaches everyone in great health. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.